Welcome to our channel. Let's begin the journey.
Welcome everyone to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something absolutely crucial, the high-stakes, highly energetic subatomic world of built-in nuclear safety. You know, when we picture nuclear reactors, we usually think of these massive control rooms, right? Countless dials, complex computer systems, but the ultimate safety features of a plant, they aren't digital, they aren't mechanical. They are beautifully woven right into the unchangeable laws of physics themselves.
Which brings us to the ultimate question for today. What physically stops a nuclear reactor from just running away? Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to explore the invisible physical brakes of a reactor. These natural mechanisms that guarantee that if things get too hot, the subatomic reaction automatically shuts itself down.
To fully grasp this, here's our roadmap. First, understanding reactivity feedback. Second, Doppler broadening in fuel. Third, the moderator temperature coefficient. Fourth, the void coefficient. And finally, preventing transients. Let's get started.
Section 1. Understanding reactivity feedback, the built-in brakes.
By definition, reactivity feedback consists of built-in mechanisms where temperature increases induce density changes and spectral shifts, which inherently impacts and reduces reactivity. But what does that actually mean for us? Well, it means that long before computers or human operators ever need to react to a problem, the fundamental laws of nature act as an automatic failsafe. If the reactor starts getting too hot, the physical properties of the materials inside it naturally change to stifle the chain reaction. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. The red line represents a positive reactivity period. Basically, that's what a dangerous, rapid power surge looks like if it's left unchecked by physical laws. But look at the blue line, showing a negative reactivity period. When the physical brakes of the reactor engage, they counteract that surge, creating a controlled, stable environment. The reactor power just naturally flattens out and stabilizes. So where do these brakes come from? Let's check out Section 2, Doppler broadening inside the fuel.
Inside those glowing fuel rods, we have this fascinating quantum phenomenon called Doppler broadening. I want you to imagine a vibrating net trying to catch a tennis ball. As the temperature of the nuclear fuel increases, the atoms inside start vibrating much faster. In physics terms, the resonances are smeared in energy. Essentially, that microscopic net actually widens as it gets hotter, and that makes it far more likely to catch and trap stray neutrons that would otherwise go on to split other atoms. Here is the Doppler effect in action. Modern light water reactors contain a massive amount of uranium-238 and sometimes thorium-232. As these specific isotopes heat up, their neutron capture cross-sections smear in energy. Short version, increased heat directly equals increased neutron capture. Because of this widened net, we see a decrease in what physicists call the resonance escape probability, often denoted by the lowercase letter p. Because there is so much U-238 present, this temperature-dependent physical quirk acts as the dominant negative feedback effect in the reactor. It's an immediate, absolutely vital brake on the chain reaction.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a completely reliable safety sequence. It's a punchy, cause and effect chain reaction. Step 1, power increases. Step 2, fuel temperature immediately spikes. Step 3, Doppler broadening kicks in, widening the atomic net and catching stray neutrons. And step 4, reactivity drops. The reactor literally pulls its own emergency brake just by getting warm. But hey, the fuel rods aren't acting alone in this environment. Let's zoom out to Section 3, moderator temperature coefficient, the cooling failsafe.
This brings us to the moderator temperature coefficient, denoted as alpha M. This is defined as the change in reactivity per degree change in the average moderator temperature. Remember, the moderator, which is usually water, is there to slow down fast neutrons, so they can actually continue the fission chain reaction. Think of the water molecules kind of like people in a crowded room. As things heat up, everyone just spreads out.
Let's look at the mechanics of this density shift. As the coolant or moderator heats up, its density inherently decreases because the hot water expands. This means there are literally fewer water molecules in a given space to slow down those fast-moving neutrons. This lack of moderation causes a massive spectral shift in the reactor. Because the neutrons aren't being slowed down efficiently, they're moving at just the right speeds to be absorbed by that Doppler broadening net we just talked about. So an increase in water temperature leads to an increase in resonance absorption, naturally stifling the reaction. Now, let's push this right to the boiling point. Section 4, the void coefficient, power of steam bubbles.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the introduction of the void coefficient, or alpha V.
This measures the reactivity change per percent change in the void fraction. In plain English, voids are steam bubbles. When water gets hot enough, it boils. These steam bubbles literally punch microscopic holes in the reactor's ability to maintain a chain reaction, because steam is much, much less dense than liquid water, removing the moderating effect almost entirely in those pockets.
But this is where specific reactor design becomes absolutely critical. In light water reactors, the coolant is also the moderator. So if the water boils and forms steam voids, you lose your moderator. This causes massive, safe, negative feedback. The reaction naturally stops. However, in different designs like early CANDU or RBMK reactors, the coolant and the moderator are physically separate materials. Losing the coolant to steam has very little impact on the solid graphite moderator they use, meaning voiding can actually cause a dangerous positive feedback loop. In fact, before the Chernobyl incident, the void coefficient of those RBMK reactors was a highly positive, incredibly unstable 4.7 beta. After major redesigns, it was carefully lowered to 0.7 beta to ensure safety.
So, how do we synthesize all of this? Section 5. Preventing power transients, harmonious safety.
So the crucial point is synthesizing these three primary physics-driven failsafes into one cohesive system. First, the fuel temperature coefficient uses Doppler resonance widening to catch neutrons like a net. Second, the moderator temperature coefficient relies on density changes to reduce neutron slowing. And third, the void coefficient in light water reactors relies on steam bubbles to completely remove the moderator. As temperature and power go up, these three failsafes operate in perfect harmony to guarantee that reactivity inherently goes down.
Think about it. These aren't mechanical switches that can fail or software programs that can glitch. They are the unchangeable rules of the universe working strictly in our favor. Knowing that the fundamental laws of physics inherently act to shut down runaway transients, how does this change your perception of nuclear safety? It truly transforms a complex machine into a self-regulating wonder of physics. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep looking for the structure and the science, and I'll see you on the next explainer.
The view from here is breathtaking. Command, we are in position and ready for the next phase. If you liked the video, subscribe and comment the topic you want next. Thanks for watching, and stay unstoppable.